live in a twilight world. Today we're going to be looking at optical tricks, specifically a mystic maze. There are many optical tricks that we could look at, but we're going to focus one at a time. And this one is called a mystic maze. And we're referencing the book Magic, Stage Illusions and Scientific Diversions by Albert A. Hopkins, published in 1897. Which means it was probably written in the 20 years before, and the guy himself, Albert A. Hopkins, probably has a further 30 more years experience working in stage magic. But we got, the point is, it's the Victorian times. Now what we're going to do is cross-reference this with modern times, yeah? So we're going to look at old stage illusions and compare it with world stage theatre illusions and deceptions and so on. I'll just read you this first little sentence here, and this is Optical Tricks, Chapter 2. By the way, this book pretty much contains like 3 books in one, so don't get too caught up on the chapters because this is Chapter 2 in, I think, Book 1. Anyway, the magician has always been indebted more or less to the use of reflection from mirrors and plate glass as an important adjunct in conjuring. Yes. We talk about mirrors all the time over here, especially smoke and mirrors. Key, very important tools in the magician's arsenal. What does that word say there? Prestidigitateur? I can't read that, but magician. The magician has always been indebted more or less to the use of reflection from mirrors. That's a very important sentence right there. So, I'm going to focus mainly on this one here, what they call the mystic maze. I'm sure it's got many other names, really. But as you can see here, let's spin the picture around. Pretty self-explanatory. You've got 3 mirrors angled in an equilateral triangle. Yeah. So they have the exact angle at each corner. And yeah, man, it creates a very impressive optical illusion. I mean, there's only 3 people standing there, but the way that the reflections are multiplying, it looks like there's a whole crowd of people there. Basically, it's the inside of a kaleidoscope, isn't it? This is how a kaleidoscope works. But this is just a very big one. And instead of having, like in a kid's kaleidoscope, you've got glitter and stars and shiny bits of plastic. You've now got humans messing around with this. And there's the trapdoor that you would enter into this room. And shall we read this? Oh, I don't really fancy reading it, but I'll do it anyway. We present an engraving of a very interesting optical illusion produced with only 3 mirrors. By multiplying the mirrors, the large number of different effects can be obtained. Let us imagine that 3 perfectly plain and very clear mirror glasses, as large as possible, form a prism whose base is an equilateral triangle. A person placed in the interior of this prism will see his image reflected a very large number of times. A very simple geometric construction, and one which we recommend our young readers to carry out in an exercise in optics by the simple application of the principle that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection, allows us to see that the image of any point, wherever placed in the center of the triangle of glass plates, will be reproduced indefinitely by groups of 6 images distributed symmetrically around points regularly spaced in the prolongation of the planes of 3 glasses. A person, therefore, sees his image reproduced indefinitely in groups of 6 until the successive reflection, attenuating the intensity of the images, the latter ceases to be visible. Let me just have a sip of my coffee. 3 or 4 persons massed in one of the angles presents the illusion of a compact and mixed crowd standing upon a sidewalk and awaiting the passage of procession. The hats waving in the air convert a peaceful waiting into an enthusiastic manifestation, which is so much the more surprising in that it's made by but half a dozen persons at the maximum. The accompanying figures give an idea of the remarkable effect, and the three persons whose image reflect ad infinitum produce the curious result that we call attention to. Would have much trouble to believe that they were the subject of illusion. So there's the picture in question. They're waving their hats. It looks like a big crowd. Upon the whole, the experiment is nothing more than the application of the principle of the old kaleidoscope enlarged and revived, in the sense that the observer has before his eyes the successive reflections of his own image, and that the objects are replaced with living beings movable at will. 5 or 6 persons may occupy, at the same time, the triangular prism, of which the sides are about 6 feet wide and which they enter through a trap in the floor. When these 5 or 6 persons are walking about in all directions, they present the aspect of a tumultuous and agitated crowd commenting upon grave events. Yeah. Amazing. Good old-fashioned, very simple optical illusions, yeah? Just in case people are not getting it, I'm just going to play a quick little video here I found on YouTube.
When an object's in front of a mirror, you see a reflected image. In this case here I have an amethyst, and you can see the reflection because the mirror is basically flat. Now what I'm going to do with this combination of mirrors joined by a piece of tape to form a hinge is change the angle and make a kaleidoscope. Watch what happens when I start to fold the mirrors toward you. We now see that there are 2 images, one produced by each of the mirrors, so you see 3 things, one actually being the stone in the front and the 2 reflected images. The angle now is about 120 degrees. If we bring the angle close to 90 and stop at 90, we will see that there are 4 stones, 3 are images, and 1 is the stone itself. I continue to decrease the angle, and we see 5 images, and at 60 degrees, we'll see 6 images. As I keep decreasing the angle, more and more images are seen.
Well done to that man. I don't know what his name is. I should really have got his name before I screen recorded that and credited him. It was the first video that came up on YouTube, yeah? So, man, he done a good job of explaining the very basics there of this optical illusion. So, anyway, let's cut to it, yeah? How does this relate to modern days, yeah? How does that relate to illusion warfare in today's age, the digital age, yeah? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. We might as well use what's going on right this moment in the Middle East. In case you're listening to this in the future or something, maybe you're listening to this in the year 2030. Right now, at the moment of this recording, 2026, March time, beginning of March, supposedly, allegedly, Israel and the US have bombed Iran. Iran has unleashed bombing all across the Middle East region. Drone strikes, missile strikes, yeah, we're just going to call it bombing, yeah? We don't want to get this overcomplicated. So right now, they are pushing the notion that thousands of bombs have been dropped over in the region, the Middle East region. When I say they, I mean every Tom, Dick and Harry out there. Every person that is believing the illusions they are seeing on their black mirrors. So the mainstream media, both the mainstream media and the alternative media, yeah, the podcasters, the influencers, the open source intelligence clowns over on Twitter that monitor every situation. All the talking heads, they're all pushing the notion that thousands of bombs have been dropped in the Middle East, in that region. In reality, it's only been about 150. I'm sure you can all see where I'm going with this, right? They've only dropped about 150 bombs all over the Middle East. That's still quite a lot, don't get me wrong. That's still bad. But the bombs they're dropping are very low explosive. And like I said, there's only 150. It's only via the power of illusion, these mirrors angled upon each other, that they're making it look like thousands of bombs have been dropped. So I'm going to say that again. Yeah? More simply put, they drop one bomb. They're using mirrors to make it look like thousands of bombs have been dropped. Does that make sense? So how do they do that? Well, look, this is supposedly Dubai, right? Dubai was hit with a Shahed drone. Now, firstly, why Dubai? What's Dubai got to do with anything? If Iran is going to war with the USA and Israel and vice versa, why is the United Arab Emirates getting involved or being targeted? I'll tell you why. Because Dubai has a ridiculous amount of influencers. Yeah, internet people, narcissists that just spend all day on social media. People literally move to Dubai to become an influencer. Yeah, a clown, a performer, an influencer. So it's genius when you think about it, what the hidden hand has done here. They've basically dropped or sent a Shahed drone, a very low explosive Shahed drone, into narcissist city, Dubai, where there is the most influencers per square mile, probably on planet Earth. It might be up there with a close second to maybe California. This is either number 1 or number 2 spot for the most amount of influencers. People that film everything. They film themselves, they film every event going. They film themselves sleeping, they film themselves eating, they film themselves shitting. So very clever bit of planning there by the hidden hand to do it in Dubai, where they know all these fools are going to film it and make a big deal out of it. And of course they're going to exaggerate it, sensationalize it, because they want you, the influencers I'm talking about, to look at their videos on social media. The Instagrammer wants you to look at their videos. The YouTuber wants you to look at their videos. And they do that by exaggerating and sensationalizing every event. And this to them, they're just going to be a part of the show. Remember in a previous video I done, fireworks with dramatic accessories. The firework is the star of the show. The actors are just the background characters doing backflips and marching up and down. This is the same thing. The Shahed drone here is the star of the show. All of these background characters, these NPC influencers, are now just running around, but they are acting as the cameraman, filming this from multiple different angles, yeah, being a part of the show, being a part of the performance, thus multiplying the one bomb into 1,000 bombs, right? You get what I'm saying? Because they filmed it from so many different angles. Then when it gets to the mainstream media, and when it gets to places like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, you're going to be watching the same explosion, but from multiple different angles. It creates the illusion that it's thousands of bombs, thousands of explosions instead of just one. You get what I'm saying? Very clever, yeah? Angled mirrors. In this case, the black mirror. As we like to say here, a catchphrase of mine, the magician creates the smoke, you film it on the black mirror. Smoke and mirrors. So this is one method of using mirrors. In this case, the black mirror. But I want to talk about another method now. And this is a really important one I want people to comprehend and understand. The hidden hand, yeah, the ones in charge of the deception industrial complex, yeah, these war magicians, these masters of deceptions, these gods of illusions, the one who are behind all of this theatricality and deception, they have their own foot soldiers. They have their own military arm, along with their own fighter jets, artillery, and logistics to get them all around the world, yeah? Don't get me wrong, the hidden hand can manipulate and control every other military, that's the whole point, but they do have their own direct foot soldiers. And these foot soldiers, sometimes known as ghosts, sometimes known as ghouls, sometimes known as gladiators, are trained in the art of the jinn. Jinn means hidden, yeah? So these guys, these foot soldiers of the hidden hand, sometimes called the Ghost Legion, sometimes called the League of Shadows, sometimes called the Faceless Men, sometimes called the Night Troopers, the Army of the Dead. Yeah, they don't really have a name, that's why we can't really locate them. These are just names that I've applied to them over the years using pop culture reference. Yeah, they've got their own very elaborate way of working. So, for example, no member of the Ghost Legion has a mobile phone or an email. Yeah? They don't even use normal time. They use hexadecimal time. Yeah? They know how to speak the Enochian language. Stuff like this. So when it comes to world stage theatre, yeah, the hidden hand will deploy their own foot soldiers to the location in question. Not only will they be the ones calling in the artillery strike or air strike or continental cruise missile strike, they are also the ones that film it. Okay? They call in the airstrike. They also make sure they're in position to film it. Does that make sense? This is really important. Yeah? As I spoke about earlier, yes, you want members of the public to film it. Of course you do. But that's not always a guarantee. So you make sure you have members of the Ghost Legion in position at the right place at the right time. Because these guys, yeah, they're trained in the art of the jinn, which means hidden, which means deception. They're experts at what they do. They don't fuck up. This is what they are trained to do. So, here's a little picture I made to help try and describe what I'm about to try and describe. First thing it should be said, right, so all of these wars, these conflicts, they're pre-planned, yeah? They're choreographed, they're synchronized. So we're going to use, I think this is Dubai, the Dubai skyline. We're just going to use that for an example, right? I'm not saying this is actually what happened. It's just an example. Leading up, maybe perhaps 6 months before go time with this conflict, this war, the agents of the hidden hand, the agents of the double cross, the foot soldiers, the Ghost Legion, whatever you want to call them, would have been in Dubai, for example, marking out which building is eligible for striking, for bombing. And what criteria, I don't know. Perhaps the top building has got some renovation work going on, so no one's there. Or perhaps this building can be evacuated in less than an hour. So before they actually call in the strike, all you got to do is blare the air raid sirens across the city. This building will be evacuated. Then the drone or missile will strike the building. Now remember, it's going to be a low explosive drone, a low explosive missile that's been messed about with. It's not going to be a high explosive missile that the military use in training. This one's going to be a special one that's had the chemicals rearranged. So it's more magnesium based. So it creates a big bang, lots of smoke. But as far as actually kinetic force and explosion, very low. Now, because they know they've already pre-planned this building is going to be hit and at what time, that means they can easily put their agents in place strategically around the building. That way they guarantee they're going to film it. Think about it, right? How is it there's always someone in the right place at the right time with their camera out, pointing in the right direction to film these events? Yeah, even like the oldest of the old Tomahawk missiles that are considered outdated now, they still fly at like 580 miles an hour. These newer missiles are like Mach 10. These hypersonic missiles are Mach 10. Yeah? Now just think about, set yourself a challenge, right? I want you to throw a tennis ball for your dog. And then as that ball's traveling through the air, I want you to try and get your phone out your pocket and film your dog catching that tennis ball. Like, just think about that. Think how hard it would be to get your phone out your pocket, unlock it, get the camera open, and point it in the right direction and catch the moving object, a tennis ball, which is going like, 20 miles an hour. That'd be very hard. Or think about maybe a time in your life when you've just been, sunbathing on the beach or in the park, and something fantastical has flew over, like a Lancaster bomber. And you're quickly trying to get your phone out your pocket to film the Lancaster bomber. It never works. Yet in a war zone, there's some person perfectly filming a missile traveling at 500 miles an hour up to 2,000 miles an hour perfectly. It's because it's these guys. It's these agents of the hidden hand put into place strategically. They know what time the missile's coming. They're also the ones pointing the laser designator at the building ×3, so it guarantees the hit where it's meant to hit. They're also the ones that film it. So this guy over here, he's going to get the long shot, yeah, the wide angle view shot. This guy here, this agent number 2, he's going to be put in this hotel quite high up, so he can essentially film kind of at the same eye level as this explosion. Agent number 3, he's going to be in this hotel, but he's going to be on the ground floor filming upwards. Yeah? So you've got that angle, that angle, and that angle. What they'll do is they'll make sure this footage goes to like the 77th Brigade or MI6, who will then make sure it goes to the mainstream media and it floods the internet. This is when the cyber deception team take over. Where it's flooding social media and then also the mainstream media, what they'll do is they'll have their 24-hour breaking news emergency coverage going, and they'll keep throughout the day, the 24-hour segment, they'll keep going from this image, from this view, this footage from this view, then they'll go to an interview with an expert. Then they'll go to footage from this view, then they'll talk to the next expert. And they'll keep doing that all day long, right? Now, you're watching the one explosion, but you're seeing it from 3 different angles played over and over and over again throughout the day. Now, for the uninitiated, those that are not trained in deception and theatricality, like your mum and dad, your nan and granddad, they've got no idea. They're just assuming that this is a different explosion every time. So in their minds, in the theatre of their mind, they are thinking that it's constantly raining bombs in Dubai or in the Middle East, wherever. When actually, it's the same one minor explosion being filmed from different angles. You get what I'm saying here? You can see how this relates to my original image, illustration, engraving from the book Stage Magic, Illusion and Scientific Diversions, right? Yeah, just like there was 3 mirrors there, you've got 3 black mirrors here. Also, another thing, another layer of deception we should consider, or not even consider, we know that they're doing this. With this image from at least 3 angles, it's better if you have 5 agents, 10 agents, 20 agents. From what I've heard, the Ghost Legion, they move in groups of 100, yeah? A century. They'll have one guy, a centurion, in charge of 100 ghouls, ghosts and ghouls. That's what I've heard. I don't know whether it's true. So really, there'd probably be about 100 Ghost Legion running around the city at a time when they're calling in theatrical bombing campaigns and airstrikes and artillery strikes, whatever, drone strikes. But anyway, if you have minimum 3 angles, you can triangulate this image and feed it into AI or just whatever, special effects software. And because you're covering it from multiple angles, the one incident, the one explosion, this data can be worked with, triangulation, and they can then really mess with the image to make it ultra realistic. Because you're not just adding it, exaggerating the smoke, exaggerating the explosion, exaggerating the flames, exaggerating the debris from one angle, you're doing it from every angle, which is then very hard for people to work out is a deception. You get what I'm saying? Because the original explosion, although very low explosive, did actually happen. Now, coinciding with this, and we've seen this with the Ukraine war, the October 7th Israel stuff, and now we're seeing it with the Middle East, USA, Iran stuff. They will, coinciding with this, what I'm talking about here, they'll obviously flood things like Twitter and Instagram with fake videos, like video game footage from Arma 3 and stuff that they call AI slop. But this is like stuff that's very obviously fake. Now they're playing a game with people here, aren't they? Because by releasing stuff that's obviously fake, they want people to then go on the internet and say, this is fake, this is CGI, this is AI slop, this is from Arma 3. But that kind of then makes this here more legitimate, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense? Very much like the double cross system there at play. At the end of the day, they want you on the internet. People always ask me, what's the point of this? Why? Because the real currency on this earth is attention, isn't it? That's the real currency. Yeah? These vampires behind the curtain, they want your time, energy, and attention. And them releasing obviously fake footage, so you then go on the internet and say it's all fake or it's all a psyop, that works just as well. That gains more attention. And then it puts you up against the people that believe it's all real. Yeah? You being one of them people that says everything is fake or everything is a psyop, you're still playing the game. You're still feeding the beast. You're still participating in the overall grand illusion. Yeah? The illusion is like layered, isn't it? Like we're talking in this video specifically, we're zooming in onto one specific type of illusion, the mystic maze. But ultimately, it's all part of the grand illusion. It is this reality. And they're all weaponized against you. That's why I call it illusion warfare. Yeah? It's weaponized against you. It wants your time, energy, and attention. Yeah? So you have to be careful that you're not feeding the beast, by pointing out that something is obviously fake. Anyway, I've been talking for a long time now. I feel like I'm rambling. I'm getting sick of the sound of my own voice. Did I do a good job of explaining myself on this video? Not as well as I wanted, but I'm sure people get the idea, right? It's all synchronized, the bombings. It's all choreographed theatre. They make sure their agents are in the right place at the right time. The ones pointing the laser designators, the ones calling in the strikes are the same people that film it, as well as they obviously want everyday people to film it as well, yeah? So I'm sure people can get the parallel I'm drawing here, where you're using mirrors to create optical trickery, yeah? And you're multiplying the situation multiple times. We live in a twilight world. There are no friends at dusk.
Thank you.